Hey everybody, it's Michael from Replica Airguns with another tutorial video. I just finished up a video, posted it today, so this one's probably going to get posted tomorrow, which will be today for you when you see it. Probably Saturday. Anyways, my last video was why is my blank gun not working? And you know, I get a lot of blank gun questions, and I did have a specific fellow that was asking me about something, so I thought I'd make a video, cover that, help out some other people with blank gun related issues. But I do certainly get a lot more air gun, specifically CO2 air gun situations. It's got to be one of the most common types of questions I get on my Replica Airguns YouTube channel. And most of the time when people ask, the amount of info I get about their problem is usually something like, it was working yesterday, but now it's not working. Or something like, when I pull the trigger, nothing happens. Or my personal favorite one is, I took my gun apart and now it doesn't work. So you can see it's really hard to answer a lot of these questions. And so I'm going to put at least most of the stuff that I can help you with in this video. Anything that I don't talk about in this video, really you're going to probably need to go and see an airgun tech or something like that to help you out with your problem. Now in this why is my CO2 airgun not working video, I am going to cover the most obvious problems I have seen related to why a CO2 airgun may not be working properly. I really don't get a lot of questions about spring piston or pump airguns, so I'm not going to be focusing on those guns. We will be focusing on CO2 airguns in this video. Now there will be a lot of crossover with CO2 and even gas airsoft guns, so this video may be helpful for some of you airsofters out there also. So let's first get to the super obvious stuff and get that out of the way. First of all, did you put a brand new CO2 cartridge in your airgun, and is it pierced? So did you screw that CO2 screw all the way in or puncture it all the way? Make sure you've done that for sure. It will not work if there's no CO2 or if it's not punctured. Number two, did you load BBs or pellets into the airgun magazine, and is the magazine in the gun correctly? That's kind of important too. Is the gun safety off, right? The gun's not going to shoot with that safety on. The trigger may not even pull back at all. If it does pull back, nothing's going to happen. Is the gun a blowback semi-auto single action airgun? And if it is, then did you pull the slide back prior to firing off the first shot? So for instance, here we have Dan Foglio Witness 1911. You're going to need to, well, typically when you're basically put your magazine in, right, it's not in right now, you're going to want to rack the slide, which cocks the hammer and loads a round into the chamber. Very similar to a real gun. So with these full blowback BB pistols and airsoft pistols, you need to cock it back. That picks up a round. It also brings the hammer back and allows you to fire that first round, right? Once that first round is shot, the CO2 or the gas is going to function the gun in semi-auto mode with blowback action. You don't have to do it again. It's going to pick up a round, bring it into the chamber. Everything is going to be awesome, right? As long as you have CO2 and all that in it, right? So keep that in mind, right? So for instance, again, if you didn't rack the slide, put CO2, put BBs in, and just figure you're going to press that trigger, nothing's going to happen. Why is my gun broken? Fix it, right? Again, boom, ready to go. Okay, that's what you need to do. Let's put this way. All right, let's get into some CO2 related problems. Not all CO2 cartridges are created equal. They often have slightly different shaped nubs on them. So what I'm talking about here is the front. So you can see that they're a little different. The one on the left has got a little bit more surface area. This one kind of like tapers a little bit, and they can be radically different. I don't have a lot of CO2 cartridges to show you, but they can be quite different in shape. And sometimes they won't even fit into the area. Now I'm going to bring this into the picture just to show you. So essentially this is going to go in there, right? It's going to want to go right in there. And sometimes they won't even fit into that spot properly. They won't get past the metal and get into the seal and get punctured even. I've seen that on a few guns. So sometimes just changing the CO2, putting a slightly different version or brand in there, can make a world of difference for you. And what can even happen is it might partially puncture, right, but not be seated all the way because like perhaps the metal's in the way, and all of a sudden all this gas is going to leak out of here. Even though you've punctured it, it just doesn't get in that all the way. I know a lot of you have probably been tightening up your CO2, and you notice if you sort of stop right when it punctures, all of a sudden gas starts leaking out and you got to quickly, you know, get it the rest of the way. But if you can't get it the rest of the way, guess what? All that CO2 is going to leak out. So keep that in mind. Now there is a seal where the CO2 cartridge butts up to the valve, and again I'll show you that, right? It's easier to show you here with the magazine because I can get it right in here, but there is like a little seal, that little white plastic part. Now this is right in the mag on this gun, but with some guns, I don't know if I can really show you here, it's hard to show you that one, I can show you with this one. With some guns, it's going to be part of the gun, right? Same thing, it just happens to be built into the frame of the gun, right? So it's the same thing, it's the same sort of little, usually it's a white or green seal that you'll see in there, right? Just like that, okay? Now that white or green seal can get deformed, sometimes just simply by leaving your CO2 in the gun for too long, because a lot of the new white seals and plastic green seals, they're like a hard plastic. So what happens is the CO2 nub sits on there for a long time. The pressure of it on there all the time for a long time actually deforms that little seal. And so if you go changing your CO2 bulbs, right, you go from one brand to another, the seal may not actually work on a different brand because it's kind of been deformed to the shape of the one you've been using more often. So use a different one, it may leak. Now I did make a specific video called How to Fix Leaking CO2 in an Air Gun, and I'll put a link in the description of this video. I'll see if I can put it on screen here for you as well. But watch that video. I do have a little fix that can help you if that white or green CO2 seal, the one where the CO2 nub basically it makes a connection, and there's a little fix that you can try. So watch that video. Alright, so CO2 valve related problems, a bit of a crossover here. Again, make sure that that outside CO2 valve seal is in good condition and the leaking is not being caused by this problem. If you've checked the outside seal and everything is okay with it, then perhaps there's a problem with the CO2 valve itself. Now, how you're going to know the difference is if I were to put a CO2 in here and all the gas was leaking out of this area, right in here, then there's a problem with that seal. If I put the CO2 in here, tighten it up, and all the gas leaked out of here or out the barrel of the gun, then I know there's a problem with the valve. Okay, there's seals and stuff in here, and there's different things going on inside that could be a problem. Again, pop it up here, you see CO2 leaking out of here, your problem is right in there. If it's coming out of the top of the mag here or the barrel of the gun, then the problem is with the valve, okay? Now what can sometimes happen with the internal valves, again, can be seal related, or it can be just simply stuck open. Maybe there's a little debris inside, or there's some metal shavings and different things like that. Now again, I could do that, show you with this gun, but I'm not going to, because if you have a problem with the valve in a gun like this, you're going to have to take the gun apart. I don't recommend it. I recommend at that point you take it to a gun tech, right? Because you're going to have to take the whole gun apart to get to that valve. It may or may not be easy. I personally wouldn't even probably try it myself unless it was a last resort. That said, you know, you can do it really easily if the gun has the valve in the magazine. So you're going to find valves in the magazine typically when the CO2 goes into the magazine before it goes into the gun, right? So, you know, a stick mags, you're not going to be able to do it with the stick mag type guns. We're looking at guns where you can see this little CO2 valve here, right in the magazine. So you'll notice we have this sort of little screw here, and I've got two of these. I have one that's actually working and one that's not working. We're going to take a look at both of them. I've kind of pre-unscrewed them a little bit. You may need a little tool. I bought this little guy. It's basically for taking out small nails, but it does work really good for unscrewing these guys. Okay, hopefully it's hard to do this on camera. Okay, I'm just going to take it out real quick. So here's the first one. I want to show you it kind of up close if I can. There's not much going on in there. Basically the front part is where the CO2 comes in. It comes in the front area here and it exits out the top. So when this gets hit, right, all the CO2 is in this area in a little chamber, and this opens, allows the CO2 to pass through and come out these holes, which puts it in the back chamber, which then comes out the top of the mag, right? So the CO2 flows kind of to the front, then comes inside this chamber in here, and then exits out the top, right? So it's really important that this seal right here is in good condition. And actually, I think I've got the one that's, I'm looking at it now, this is the one that's bad. And we'll compare it to the one that's good in a second here. I'm going to take this one out. I've mixed them up a little bit. That's really okay. I know which one's good and which one's bad. We'll talk about some reasons why it may be bad, why it may be good. There's more than one reason you can have a problem. Get these out. There we go. Okay, so All right. So one of the problems is your threading could be all, weird. If your threading's all messed up, it's going to allow CO2 to kind of get out through there, and maybe it won't seat all the way. If there's little bits of filings around here and stuff in the front, inside there, you can have a problem. So definitely clean this all out. Put lubricants in there before you put it all back together. Use like a silicone lubricant. Okay, let's take a look at these two seals, so these two valves, and have a look at them and see what's potentially wrong. Okay. And we did have a batch of these 10 Foglio Witness 1911s with problems with the magazines. They were leaking. They were pretty much leaking. You put a CO2 in and they leak right away. So can you see what's wrong here? You see one of the little seals in the front there? You can actually see that the metal is going to be hitting the gun and not the seal. See how the seal comes all the way forward, and this one doesn't? So these plastic parts that they were putting in here were just not thick enough. Right? So if I wanted to fix this magazine, I'm going to have to probably find some sort of a little O-ring to put in here to seal it up. I'll find like an O-ring that fits there, and I could technically fix this magazine by doing that, okay? Or, the magazine and the seal and the valve. But that was the problem with this one, is the seal is just not shaped properly. It's not touching the metal. It's not sealing, okay? So you can see that that's the reason for that. Again, examine those valves, make sure that they are operating properly, right? That they're actually working. Lubricate them, clean them, make sure that this seal is properly, it's the right depth, it's not broken, or like I showed you before, too shallow. And if all of that's okay, then you can put it back in your gun. I would use something like silicone oil, right? I've got this stuff, silicone spray, give it a good spray. Silicone spray is really good for guns because it's a great lubricant in general. It's not sticky, it doesn't leave a lot of residue on the gun for dirt to get on there, right? It's a really good spray in general. Another thing you can use just to help your gun is something like Pelgun oil. Put one on the tip of every, 2 or 3 CO2s that you use. This gets in the gun, lubricates it properly. That can prevent problems down the road. All right, another possibility is BBs getting stuck in the blowback gas tube. Very common with the 1911, this 10 Foglio Witness. Why does it happen? It's gonna be hard to see here. Let's see if I can get a light on. All right, so that's the gas tube, that little plastic bit. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There, it's kind of focusing. That plastic bit there, the metal tube or the plastic tube that's sticking out. And what happens is BBs can get stuck inside there because that little area is literally slightly larger than a BB. Now, what happens when you rack your slide, right, is that gas tube comes forward, pulls a BB out of the magazine, and pulls it into the breech. The breech being, so hard to do this, that, where the BB goes in, right? So what we all love to do is we love doing this, right? Oh, I just gotta rack my slide. I love the sound. I just love the feel. It feels so realistic. We do that over and over again, but if you have a loaded magazine with BBs in it, even if there's no CO2, every time you bring it forward, you're essentially trying to jam another BB into the breech. Only so many BBs can go in there. There's a little rubber bar in there, and that little rubber bar basically holds the BB from rolling down the barrel. It also gives it backspin. It's like hop up. The more BBs you try to jam in there, it may push 1 or 2 through, but more than likely you're going to push BBs into the back, into that tube, that gas tube, and you're going to have a rattling sound inside there. Plus, it's just not going to shoot properly. It's not going to work properly. You're going to have all kinds of problems because there's not supposed to be BBs in there. Okay, now I've made a specific video on how to get BBs out of there, the cause of it, things you can do to get them out, what not to do. Obviously, don't do this all the time unless, really, you're only supposed to do that once when you got a loaded magazine, and then you're ready to go. Okay, so watch that video again. I'll put a link in the description or right here in the video as well. All right, another possible problem I've seen, and it's not really a problem, it's just the design of the gun. It's when BBs are rolling out of the barrel of your CO2 air gun. People say to me, why is a BB rolling out of my air gun? Why I'm trying to shoot this gun and BBs are rolling out of the front of the gun. Like, what's happening here? Well, some air guns are designed so that when you pull the trigger, the first part of the trigger pull is actually kind of kicking a BB forward or allowing a BB to come out of the magazine and into the breech area, so into the barrel. And a lot of these air guns don't have that little rubber stopper, that little hop up little rubber piece that goes across the top of the barrel. So the BB basically is fully allowed. There's nothing stopping it from rolling out of the barrel. And so some people just imagine this. Imagine this gun is pointed at a target, right? So they use a real slow pull, and all of a sudden that that BB is in the barrel. Can't talk properly. It's in the barrel, and if the gun's pointed down a little bit, guess what's going to happen? Gravity's going to take hold of that BB. It's going to roll out of the front of the barrel. So, you know, it happens when people are shooting at low down targets, and they're being very, very kind of like cautious or slow at the trigger. They're thinking that the slower they go, the more accurate they're going to be. It's not always the case. You want to use a firm, you know, distinctive trigger pull. You don't want to just be, you know, just playing with that trigger. That's no way to shoot. You want to be confident in your trigger pulls, right? So let me kind of show you. I'll try and show you anyways. Let's put this in. So what's happening here, I'm going to hold it down slightly. I'm going to just pull the trigger a little bit. I put the magazine in backwards. That doesn't help. Okay, so just point it down. Let's see if I can get a BB to roll. There you go. Look at that. I didn't even finish pulling the trigger and the BB rolled out. See, the hammer didn't go down, nothing, right? So that's exactly what I wanted to show you. So how do you fix that problem that really isn't a problem? You simply, I'll take that magazine out, shoot with confidence. Mean it, right? Pull that trigger, right? This is a single action gun, but pull that trigger. Don't baby it. Don't play with it, right? Let's get serious here. Let's just shoot it. Be you know, like, mean what you want to do there, right? And another thing you can do is don't point the gun down. Set your targets up at least level, maybe slightly higher than the gun, and you won't have that problem. All right, a little gun maintenance can go a long way. So cleaning your gun, lubricating it. Now, I don't suggest you go crazy with lubricating your gun all the time. Air guns typically don't need a lot of cleaning because there's no gunpowder or anything like that, so they don't need a lot of cleaning. But every once in a while, you're going to want to get in there and clean it out. Use some compressed air. Use a little silicone spray, right? Clean it out. Just make sure everything's properly lubricated and functioning. Now, I did make a video on how to clean your air guns and blank guns. I'll put a link again in the description. Alright, so what about stuff like my air gun is jammed, or my trigger is stuck, or some random part fell out of my gun? Now, there's only so much I can cover in this video. Most other problems are going to be a bit more complicated. So if these suggestions I've made in this video haven't helped you so far, then perhaps you should take your gun into a gun tech and have them take a look at it. Alright, thanks for watching another Replica Airguns video. Don't forget to subscribe. Check me out on Facebook and Twitter. Username is Replica Airguns. Also, come on down to ReplicaAirguns.com, where I have articles, posts, reviews, some pictures, usually additional pictures of some of the guns. And I even have a little written version of this video that you can read through if you want to. And we also have our Canada and US online Replica Airgun stores, where we sell air guns, BB guns, pellet guns, airsoft guns, blank guns, knives, and other accessories. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.